The Cincinnati Bengals went from paying their top players to absolutely disrespecting the next guy in line, and he handled it a lot better than I would have, that's for sure. We're talking about today on the 32 Blueprint. Welcome into the 32 Blueprint, your place for daily NFL content, whether it be here on YouTube or on your podcast platform of choice every single day, whether you're in the car getting ahead on laundry or whatever the case might be. Let's not get too crazy here. Thank you for making this your NFL content home. Be sure to hit subscribe so we can grow this community. You can become a part of this as we go into the NFL draft. We got a lot of coverage coming. But first, let's get into actual news right here, right now. Trey Hendrickson on the Pat McAfee show today. For some reason, he turned down our invite, which is fine. I get it. There's levels to this whole game. But also, Trey, we will be having conversations. Nonetheless, there is some shade being thrown Trey Hendrickson's way, and I don't know really what to make too much of this. The Bengals executive vice president said that I think he should be happy with certain rates that maybe he doesn't think he'd be happy of it at. I think some of it is on him to be happy at some point, and if he's not, that's what holds it up sometimes. So it takes him to say yes to something, and also we have all the respect in the world for him. I was reading that, and that feels like a nervous answer. Just the way that was phrased. First off, what do you make of that? Before we get into Trey Hendrickson's response, that's a wild thing to say to one of the
It's a wild response, but it's lacking context, though, right? So we don't know what kind of offers have been made. If the offers are reasonable, if they are within what should be assumed by Trey Hendrickson and his camp, and not being like, oh, hey, I want to be paid like Myles Garrett and all that line, because I don't think he's there at that threshold. I think he's just a tier below there personally. That's the farthest I'm getting from smack talking Trey Hendrickson on this show, by the way. But if we don't know the context, maybe that's why they're saying it. Maybe that's why there's a brick in the road, if you will. But either way, it was not worded correctly. It was worded to make us speculate. Why are they making Trey Hendrickson try to look like the bad guy here? Because that's what it's trying to make that seem like. He's trying to make a negative light in the media, and I think that's why he had to go on McAfee show to clear the air.
Yeah, well, obviously the whole April Fool's Day thing he was talking about valid, and so he made a call to his agent, was like, was this legit? And apparently it was, which obviously that's why we're talking about it. You mentioned, like, where were the deals at? We don't know. Seems like the communication wasn't great. Trey Hendrickson had a few things to say, and one of them being that, like, hey, communication is super important to me, and we just haven't really had that. It's, like, not really that great right now. Overall, poor communication's been here, there, whatever. Do you think that the Bengals will be able to pull this off? Because it seems like, to me, they're not interested in it. They're just kind of entertaining the idea. We looked through the contracts a little bit before we went on. He's got a very tradable kind of deal going on there. Do you think that they just went in maybe too much, more than they thought they could on the offensive side of the ball, and now they're like, all right, whatever. We'll just, if we can get it done, we can get it done. Otherwise, let's trade him away.
Yeah, both things can be true here, in my opinion. I think they want to have him on the team, but I think they bit off a little more they can chew with the T. Higgins and the Jamar Chase and the Joe Burrow contracts. All three of those players amount up to over 33% of the entire salary for the Cincinnati Bengals. That's too much. And we've made the joke over the last couple times on this show when we bring up this whole fiasco going on with the Bengals. But I'm pretty sure that the Bengals have some job openings on LinkedIn looking for some defensive players because they have no choice. They need some entry-level players. So I think that we're going to possibly see him get moved in the draft. I know they've ruled a trade out, but look, man, when you're looking at the salary, when you're looking at if you're going to pay a guy like Trey Hendrickson, who is not getting any younger, he's going to be 30 or he is 31. You're going to have to make a decision here. And you made a decision with your wide receivers to put them up and pay them. You might have to maybe grab a couple picks and get two players that could fill the spot of his, hope that you get the same type of production and probably pay half of what you're getting in average annual salary getting in the draft. This is the greatest draft to do it, with interior defensive linemen and edge rushers at an all-time high, but you're going to miss out on a really strong player if you have to move on from Trey Hendrickson. Again, we don't know if a trade's going to happen. They keep ruling it out, but we're back in smoke screen season. We're here. We're right here. Don't believe anything you hear on the internet. Abraham Lincoln told me that once, and I will never, ever, ever
Don't
forget
forget
that.
it. Don't forget it. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. As speaking of smoke screens, it seems like the Bengals are putting smoke screens on Trey Hendrickson. Like you gotta leave at least somebody in the loop. I guess I'm not the one that running the organization. Taking a look at some of Trey Hendrickson's stats from last year. Obviously, what stands out is his 17 and a half sacks, the sack king, 2 forced fumbles, and 33 solo tackles. I will say, maybe part of the issue is he did not have any interceptions. Is that playing into this? Is that why this isn't getting done?
I mean, it shouldn't be. He's not a guy that's worried about making the interceptions. That's like asking how many receiving touchdowns he had. That's probably what's impacting him in the eyes of the Cincinnati Bengals here, right? So I don't think that's the case. But you're right with this communication thing. And this is the second day in the row that we're talking about ownership, front office, having bad communications with some of their star players. And what's ironic is it's the actual same position group with Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones with the Dallas Cowboys. We talked about that on yesterday's episode. And then right now with Trey Hendrickson with the Cincinnati Bengals. And he brought up, he's straight up said, through the process communication, when I say it's been poor, it's been like, well, here and there. And so that's probably the nicest you could probably say without saying, hey man, just talk to me, damn it. Let's just get this
Yeah,
done. Obviously I want to get paid. And that shows that the Cincinnati Bengals are probably beating around the bush. I'm guessing that we are going to see him in a different uniform once the new season starts. That's what my gut's saying right now. Whether it's the draft, whether it's post June 1st with all the different salaries happening and changing, it could be that long. I don't think that's a smart decision on Cincinnati's behalf, but I do think we're going to see him in a different uniform this year. Maybe I'm shocked. Maybe I'm wrong. And that'd be a good thing for Bengals fans because you need somebody to root for on that defensive side. Because right
true.
now, can you name another player on that defense, on that Bengals defense? Not probably off the top of your head, right?
Well, Eli Apple doesn't play for them anymore, does he? Because that'd be the one that everyone thinks of.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, but that's not the one that I would think of right off the bat.
Oh,
Um,
really? That's the one that
no,
always comes to
I
my
think
mind.
what is he now? Is he a Charger? He's all over the place. He's played at so
He's
many different places.
Yeah, that's a tough guy to keep pinned down, but absolutely electric in the backfield. My question is there a chance that maybe old Jared Jones is in communications with Micah Parsons, but also because he's doing it behind David Milgetta, he's able to maybe convince, let's get Trey Hendrickson down here, you guys side by side. Is that something that could happen? Could we see Trey and Micah both in Dallas?
No,
No.
no. If if
It's
if
worth
if
dreaming
Dallas
about.
is, I mean, if you're a Dallas fan, maybe, but if you're already trying to fight and take pennies away from Micah Parsons, who arguably is the best edge rusher in the National Football League right now, there's no way you're going to go and bring a 31-year-old Hendrickson to Dallas as well. It's just not going to happen. I do see a possible trade happening for Trey Hendrickson, but I mean, it's going to be
Probably
just
not down in
whoever
Dallas.
whoever offers the best package, right? And they'll probably all honestly have to worry about strategic as well. Like probably not getting traded to the Bills, although there's been rumors there. If I had to go with my just a guess right now, if you put a gun to my head and said pick where he's getting traded to, I'd say the Detroit Lions.
Ooh, not a bad pick. It's actually not. That does make sense. I'd like to see him in a Patriots uniform if at all possible. But nonetheless, we will have to see how this develops. I hope that there's more communication going on there, maybe a few more phone calls, or at least a text here or there, so they can get an inkling of what's going on. It seems like we are getting an inkling of what could be the future of the NFL. Obviously, with this whole owner meeting situation going on down in the beautiful I don't think Florida's a
Palm Beach.
Sunshine State. Yeah, I don't know. Is Cali the Sunshine State? Doesn't matter. In beautiful Florida. Looks like we might be looking at 18 games here in the near future. I don't think this is anything that a lot of people are like, holy what? Are you serious? We're not. Whoa. This was not on anyone's radar. I think a lot of people saw this coming. The question was not if, but when. What do you make of? There were some comments by Roger Goodell and I believe Jerry Jones actually, shocker, had some comments. What do you think of this? What could it look like? Is it good for the league? And finally, an extra bye week question mark?
Yeah, I mean that might be the case if you're gonna make it a 20-week season before the playoffs and then have 2 bye weeks. That might be the best bet for getting other teams, smaller market teams, the opportunity for primetime games as well. I think it's inevitable. I think the way that we talk about expanding the schedule so much over the last couple seasons, going from 16 to 17 games and now going to 18 games, just seems inevitable. I would be shocked if that's where they stop when it's all said and done. What I'd be interested in is how they'll do the scheduling, because bumping up to one extra game obviously was an interesting way that they added some to the schedule, right? They didn't change the divisions. They still played 2 times a year, but you had to find a way to add one more game in. It was an odd number of games. Before that, with the 16 games, you played your entire division, then you played another division and a half of another division. That's how it was always set up. Like, you would play, if you were the Bills, you'd play all your AFC East teams, you'd play the AFC South, all of them. Everybody in AFC East would play all the AFC Souths, and then your division would play 2 of the 4 in the NFC West or something like that. You couldn't do that now with the 17 games. With 18, are you going to bring that back? Just play 2 different divisions each time in your non-divisional schedule? Or does this lead up to the beginning of starting to get rid of the divisions, something we've talked about as well in the past?
Well, I've got how it's constructed right here, so I'll just quickly glide through this. Obviously, 6 games against divisional opponents. This is as it is right now with 17. So you've got 6 games against divisional opponents, 1 home, 1 away per opponent. 4 games against teams from a division within its conference. 2 games at home, 2 games on the road. 4 games against teams from a division in the other conference. 2 games at home, 2 games on the road. 2 games against teams from the 2 remaining divisions in its own conference. So obviously not the conference it's playing in full or its own. 1 game out and one game on the road and 1 game at home. And then they're based kind of on the same division ranking from last year. And then the 17th game is the additional game against a non-conference opponent from a division that the team is not scheduled to play. Matchups are based on division ranking from the previous season. So I wonder, how would that look? Would they completely do away with how that 17th game is done? And maybe, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I do wonder about the extra bye week. And then you're exactly right. I think it's a great question of where does it end? We've seen this with the college football playoff. It was 4, now it's 12. We know it's not going to stop at 12. You go from 16 to 17. You go to 18. Then do you add in a bye week? Not for the 18, but maybe for the 19th game. And then what are we playing football all year round? Like, I know these guys can't take it. And the NFLPA is very much against this, but I mean, the amount of revenue that is going to be gained from this extra game is like legitimately insane. You see an extra 16 games and how much money they all make. Jerry Jones said, certainly it's in the future. I know the potential, and we know what kind of potential he's talking about. There are several things that I can see in the future that are potential. I also know that things can take time. I don't love it. I don't. And as much as I do love watching football, and I get sad every time the Super Bowl comes around, and I get more than excited in every, whatever August, really in the spring, honestly, let's not get too crazy here. But anytime football's in the news, I get pumped up. I just don't think, I think this like waters down the product. Do you start to see load management, injuries earlier in the year? Does this affect the playoffs? I don't think this is the right play, even though it's pretty clear this is going to happen. It's just a matter of time. But what is your biggest gripe with it? Or are you in favor?
I'm guess I'm a little bit half and half. I understand what you're saying with the injuries and things like that, but with the NFL, the way that they are just above and beyond every other professional sport in America right now, when it comes to revenue, when it comes to exposure, when it comes to fandom, they have to take advantage of it as much as they possibly can, because you don't know how fast that's going to decline. I mean, look at, this is a long thing ago, but look 100 years ago, baseball was the only thing around. Baseball was the most amazing sport in the world. Now you're seeing people have a very hard time watching baseball past April. Like, you look at the ratings, yes, it's exciting. The first few weeks, opening day is still great, although they had to compete with the NCAA tournament this year. Not a bad look. Not a good look, I should say. But with NFL, I mean, you own Sundays. And if you want to play a game on Mondays, you own that Monday too. And guess what? Even though Amazon hasn't been the best thing, if you play on Thursday nights, college football doesn't have a chance for you. You own Thursdays. So adding an extra game, this just adds another opportunity, another week, I should say, adds another opportunity to just completely own and continue to monopolize the fandom of a bunch of people, and not just the United States, worldwide. And this also opens up a lot more things, as you mentioned, with revenue. ESPN's trying to get their hand back in the cookie jar of an NFL. We've already talked about Amazon. They're trying to expand. And then Netflix, we saw what they did on Christmas this past year. They're trying to add more as well, having some more opportunities, some more games for them to create streaming deals or more whatever. That's 3 different opportunities to do so. Then you're also talking about, other places that you can do in the future as well. So do I hate it? I don't love it, but at the same time, I think compared to all the other sports right now, the gripes that we have against all the other commissioners about not trying to expand the game, I think this is what Goodell's trying to do. Expand the game literally. He's expanding the
Mhm.
season. And by doing that, I think it's probably the right call, a long-term decision.
I think it's interesting because you look at like what are the top rated TV programs across the year, and it's always like NFL, 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 college football, NFL, NFL, college football, political debate,
Yep.
college football, NFL, 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 one finals game, NFL, NFL, college football, and so you look at it, it's all a football emoji, like in either a dark emoji or a light emoji, college football or NFL. I think a part of that is like just the scarcity of the games. And you mentioned like baseball right now, awesome. Haven't seen it in a while. This is fun. But then when we're 65 games in, am I still as bought in to whether he got to second base or not? The amount of first downs in football just is limited. The amount of, if you lose a game, it really matters. That's not the case in hockey or baseball or, well, soccer isn't really the same thing. I don't even know if they're playing soccer in America. I'm going to be completely honest.
It's just the benefit, though. It's the benefit of the game. You play it just
That's
one
what I
time a
mean.
week. Yeah, you play one time a
Yeah.
week. You're not going to the bar to talk about who hit the home run in the game. Like maybe you're talking about the torpedo bats. Maybe you're doing
Yeah.
that, but other than that, you're not doing that. But you're talking the entire week about what happened between team A and team B in the NFL. And you're
Yeah.
diving into it until the next week, and then you're doing it all over again. So adding an 18th week, just one extra one, I don't think that's going to change the fact of people are going to get bored of this game. I think if it continues down
No.
this road, I think that might be an argument. But right now, I think that's only going to be. I think bars are excited. I think restaurants are excited. I think supermarkets are excited. Beer sales just went up an extra week, so there's a lot of things to be excited about. What I will be worried about and more curious, I guess I should say, is where does this week go? Is it on the left side? Do they start the same week as college football now? Because usually there's like a 1 week gap.
Sounds like they're
Or
going to push it back. So then
yeah,
Super Bowl's on President's Day or like the
that's not
Sunday
a,
before.
and honestly, that's not a bad idea because I know a lot of people who will either just close their doors that following Monday because they know people are going to call in. They just know they're not going to have enough people. Or you just make it already a national holiday. So Super Bowl
Right.
Sunday, President's Day on Monday, paid days off. It's probably not the worst thing in the world. You just President's Day just turns into National Hangover Day.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. That
Buy
was
a
my argument
mattress,
though.
buy a mattress on National Hangover Day. I mean, that's perfect timing.
That is, boom. I love the
Boom.
play there. That was my argument, though, is that, it's the formula of the game that gives the NFL the leg up, opposed to like the baseball that fell off. But I do wonder if it's going to be some of those like you stuck around. It's what is the saying? Like you either die the hero or live long enough to become the villain or something like that. Like I wonder, but also the NFL is like making all these changes and you have to change to kind of innovate to come to that next level. So I don't know what that's going to do. I'll throw this at you though. Last kind of thing on this topic. Every time we talk about this, I always just wonder what if we just did an extra bye week as it is now 17 games, 2 bye weeks. You can push it back the extra week. You can you're not adding any actual games. So you're not adding any extra ticket revenue, no concession revenue, no real actual new deals with any TV, whatever, as far as actual games. But you're kind of giving the players a break across the season. You get an extra bye week in there. You do like kind of increase your longevity of the season. So the more weeks the NFL is on, and then on top of that, like technically there are no more game. There's not more games, but there's more weeks where you have a deal with CBS, so you can increase that. I just think every time we talk about this, that's what pops in my head, and it maybe is wrong, but it's like nobody talks about it. So where am I wrong in this?
I don't know if you're wrong, but let's just put it in the perspective of wanting to make money in the NFL. Right now, you have a 17 game season. Really, it's an 18 week season with the bye week. If you add one more game, make it an 18-week season with 2 byes, that instantly becomes a 20-week season. Then you add the playoffs, you're getting to 26 weeks. That means that you own half the year, half the calendar year the NFL now owns if you move to an 18-week schedule with 2 byes. So I guess that you're probably just looking to continue to you're playing conquest, man. You're just continuing trying to dominate the board and take over in world domination. And Roger Goodell, even though he would probably be a president with a clown nose on his head, on his nose there, he'd find a way to do that. So I think, again, it's inevitable. I think we're going to get that 18 game season. I think I would not be shocked if we get it as soon as next year.
Oof, that's quick. I would imagine probably 2, maybe 3 years, because I would imagine they're working now on finalizing deals for those extra games. And that's not, I imagine, something that happens overnight. Maybe it is. I'm not the businessman here, but
Well, when's the
next year
next
is
NFL
fast.
CBA? The next NFL CBA doesn't expire till 2031. I don't think it's going to wait till that long. So the new
No.
2020 CBA, that was one that they had to come in. I think that's when the 17 game schedule popped in, but I don't think they're going to have to wait. They're probably going to have to push that CBA forward, though. They're probably going to have to make a new CBA to get the NFL union to deal on an 18th game. Meaning, if the union doesn't like it, what
They
is
do
the
not.
owners going to give in return? Because there's got to
Yeah.
be a little bit on each side, trade-offs, right? We'll see what that happens. I'm guessing next offseason is going to be a really important one for the league.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This offseason, next offseason gonna be huge. And I do know the NFLPA does not like this extra game just from a player health and safety standpoint. Let's move away from that and kind of into the AFC East with a few quick hitters here. Obviously, our chief of the Bills in this 32 Blueprint podcast, Christian. Tell me how you feel about James Cook potentially booking it out of Buffalo ASAP. House goes up for sale. Is that what I'm reading?
Yeah, he listed his house for sale in Orchard Park, and I think that's an interesting move. I think that's a fun move in the eyes of if you're trying to catch the drama, right? James Cook, if you're living under a rock over this offseason or just decided to just finally tuning in here, the Bills have signed plenty of players this past offseason in extensions. And the only one that really is missing there is James Cook. And I don't know if it's just because of what happened or because they don't value running backs. Could be a little of both, but James Cook was actually very vocal on Instagram about wanting to be paid $15 million per season. Now, he did lead the league in touchdowns this past season and rushing touchdowns, but in putting that into
Dog.
perspective, Saquon Barkley doesn't make $15 million per year. Okay, so I don't think he's going to get that personally, even if he's traded elsewhere, even if he signs elsewhere next year, because he does have 1 year left on his contract. I don't think he's going to get that $15 million. But you never know. But him putting his house up for sale in Orchard Park, I think, is a little bit of a statement saying, hey, look, if you're not going to pay me, then I'm ready to leave. So maybe that's just him saying, without saying, look for a trade. I mean, we're 3 weeks away from the NFL draft, right? So
Yeah.
maybe that was his way of saying it without saying it. Regardless, though, I don't think we're going to see a contract. Now, Brandon Beane came out and said that negotiations fell through. They're not going to work on to an extension. He said doesn't rule out that they'll look into it after next season. But it sounds like they're moving on with him being in his final year of his contract this season. And look, you can't re-sign everybody. And as great as James Cook has been this year, if you're going to ask for a value that the Bills don't see as a good fit after spending a ton of money on a new core. And when they're in this competitive window, every million counts. They're restructuring contracts every single year. Most teams are. So I guess I don't blame them. Do you value running back contracts? That's probably an interesting debate here because that's a sensitive topic.
Yeah, yes, I do, but it's a tier system for me. There's just certain quarterbacks or running backs, wow, that you just have to bring back. You got to pay them. But there are a few running backs out there that I think probably are. You can find that production from somebody else. Is how I would phrase that.
Where do you put James Cook?
I think James Cook is in that probably A tier. You know, you got your S tier, and then he's like right there behind him. I ask you, Are we looking at like a Le'Veon Bell situation here? Remember how good Le'Veon Bell was, and then immediately, like it was kind of what we were talking about with some running backs. It just gone. Or I guess it'd be right. They don't ride here. They go like I don't want this to happen to Cook.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think even if he goes elsewhere, he's going to shine, and he's still got a lot of good football left in him. But for $15 million a year, look, if that's what you're looking for is chasing money, well, maybe they'll be able to find a different spot for you, but not on a Super Bowl contender moving forward. And running backs' longevity, we all know, are not very long. And that's why I think there's a very solid question, a very solid concern about paying running backs, especially when you're entering this year's draft. And we continue to talk about this year's draft, but I argue that there are about at least 8 running backs that I think could be everyday running backs. Maybe not starters, but everyday running backs in the league coming into this draft this year. So maybe you trade him for a day 2 pick. You pick up another running back. You already got Ty Johnson and Ray Davis. By the way, Ray Davis, they are very high on in Buffalo. And we'll see what happens moving forward. But I mean, James Cook, although he's going to be in his final year of his contract, not going to be able to give a lot of draft capital. You could probably get a day 2 pick at most, or maybe you are throwing him in as an incentive, like the Bills pick at the bottom of the first round. Maybe they want to get up to like the 15th or 18th or something like that. They do a pick swap and James Cook.
Yeah,
I could see something like
yeah.
that happening. Maybe hop
I
up and
wouldn't rule that out.
get Hampton and the running back if you really want to get a running back, if you really wanted to, or maybe a receiver falls. Maybe like Teterour McMillan falls to 18 and the Bills just won't go and get him or something like that. Do a pick
Yeah,
swap.
yeah. It's a ton of that's a big chip to kind of have in your arsenal
Yep.
there. Should they trade up to maybe 4 and get Ashton Genty?
It would take a lot to move up to 4. It would take a pick swap, James Cook, and probably next year's second round pick, or maybe even their first round pick. Knowing the Bills being a competitive team, probably take a first round pick to make happen. When you think of the last time the Bills traded their first round pick away, and they're not counting last year because that was just moving a couple spots back, but they traded to get Stephon Diggs when they traded and they got their first round pick to Minnesota, who turned into be the Justin Jefferson trade. So Bills trading their draft picks away turn into actually great wide receivers for the record. So if you want a great wide receiver in this draft, you should probably trade with the Buffalo Bills in
Try to
this
get a
year's draft.
first.
You can get a Justin Jefferson or you can get a Xavier Worthy type player.
Hey, that's I'm still mad about the whole Xavier Worthy thing. Let's
you
keep
are.
it cool there.
Of course you are.
Nonetheless, sticking in the draft here, I mentioned that 4 pick because it seems like the Patriots might be in a bit of a bind at that 4 pick. Adam Schefter on his Adam Schefter show, which also has Ty Schmidt in the Pat McAfee show background. The whole thing there just doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but nonetheless, basically what is kind of being talked about right now, not only on Adam Schefter's show, but also Albert Breer talking about this. Current feeling is that neither the Browns or the Giants will select a QB at 2 and 3, means more than likely you're going to see an Abdul Carter and a Travis Hunter come off the board before before the Patriots at 4, meaning that they wouldn't be able to pick up either of those guys, obviously, because they've been drafted. And then who do they pick up, or do they trade down? I'm going to tell you right now, I want them to get Will Campbell. But what do you think? Do they trade down if you don't have Hunter or Abdul Carter?
Yeah, I just put out my latest mock that's going to come out on the channel today. Recorded yesterday, but just ran out of time. And I had them taking, had them getting lucky and taking one of those Abdul Carters and Travis Hunters. But now that we are getting this new development popping up about possibly Shador Sanders falling down, and I think that is quite possible, and it makes a lot of sense, to be completely honest. I don't know what the Cleveland Browns are going to do with the quarterback situation, but that sounds like for another day. If I'm the Patriots, I need to go offensive tackle. If I miss out on a Travis Hunter
I agree.
or an Abdul Carter, offensive tackle has to be my number one priority. However, I don't think you have to be in love with taking a tackle at number 4. If you think that if Will Campbell is your guy, maybe, possibly, but you might be able to move down a couple spots. Maybe there is a team that wants to get a Shador Sanders or wants to get ahead of the Raiders to get Genty, and you can make that trade, move down a couple spots, and still find your Will Campbell. Or there's Membu, there's Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas. There's a lot of good offensive tackles in this draft that can, in my opinion, I think there is probably 4 that can become everyday tackles, whether on the left side or the right side, with Pro Bowl caliber players, might even 5. There's a really good player, Zabel, from South Dakota State or North Dakota State, and he's going to be in the later rounds. Like, I think I have him mocked to the Chiefs, and that just sounds like an of course pick, right, for the Kansas City Chiefs. But if I'm the Patriots and I miss out on Abdul Carter, I miss out on Travis Hunter, I am having a contingency plan right away. I'm picking up that phone and I am trading down at least a couple picks. Let's just say 5 picks. Let's say whoever that case is to be, right outside the top 10 or something like that. And they trade so they can trade up and go get Shador Sanders or go get Genty. Maybe one team falls out. Maybe they fall and, or one of those tackles fall, but they'll still have some other options. So offensive tackle needs to be the priority for New England, though.
I do think you're right. And you mentioned in there Shador Sanders. Maybe he slips around. Who knows right now? Obviously, it is smokescreen season. But comment quickly on there's been some reports. Booger McFarland, Mel Kiper, Shador Sanders slipping out of the top 10, maybe into the second round. Is that?
Yeah.
Oof. That it feels wrong, doesn't it?
There could be we could live in a scenario here where only one quarterback is taken in the first round, and that's the first pick in the draft. Like,
Wow.
we could see the Titans taking Cam Ward and then not seeing a quarterback be taken again until 33. Now, I don't think we will see that scenario personally, because if I think how I want to word this correctly.
Use the words of the English language.
Yeah. Well, here we go. How now, Brown count. All right. So if Cam Ward's taken number 1, I think we can all say that's probably most likely going to happen, whether it's the Tennessee Titans or somebody else. I think we are all pretty much on the same page there. Let's just say we are in a world. We're on Thursday night on April 24th in Green Bay, Wisconsin, in the frozen tundra, and we get to pick 32, the final pick of the night, and there's only one quarterback taken. You have Shador Sanders sitting in the green room looking like Aaron Rodgers from Cal, just wondering what's going on, right? I think you hear the phone ring. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles will answer that phone call, and they will allow somebody to pull a Lamar Jackson.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Get somebody with pick 32. Make sure you got your guy. Don't let anybody call the Titans at pick 33 overnight. Make a crazy deal to get your quarterback. Get it done on night 1. Take him with pick 32. Shador Sanders is still a first-round pick. So that's probably the worst-case scenario for Shador Sanders, in my opinion. He's still a first-round pick, but he's a Lamar Jackson type player. And if you're in one of those conspiracy type of NFL worlds, if you will, Lamar Jackson loves to play with that chip on his shoulder. He talks about it all the time. At least he did in the beginning of the season. Can you imagine if Shador Sanders can do the same exact thing heading into with whatever media it is? If the Giants want to trade back up into 32 to move up a couple spots, or
it's worth noting.
I mean, just think about it. Or the Browns could move back up and do it. They could get Abdul Carter and then they get Shador Sanders. Like, is there an opportunity for that to happen? And even if Shador goes, if we see a team like the Browns or the Giants decide not to take a quarterback at 2 and 3, draft the Travis Hunters, draft the Abdul Carters, I can see that scenario happening yet again at pick 32 with one of those teams going to get maybe a Jackson Dart or a Quinn Ewers. So that's, I think, when we get into the conversation of how many quarterbacks are taken in round 1. But speaking of, I think the question you brought up at the very beginning, can Shador Sanders fall out of the top 10? There's absolutely a scenario for sure.
Oh yeah. It seems weird. Like, it seems like something you shouldn't say, but it
just
very
because
real.
of all the hype you've heard, right? Yeah. This is because of all the hype you've heard. But I mean, when you look at his path, it's kind of similar to Cam Ward's. They both started off in FCS. Then they went to Pac-12 schools. Cam Ward went to Wazoo and Shador went to Colorado. Now, obviously, Colorado became a Big 12 school at the time, and Wazoo moved on to being like a group of 6. Then he goes to the ACC with Miami. So that's where their paths differ a little bit. Shador Sanders, I think, is going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. I don't know if he's going to be great. I think he's going to be very serviceable and very good. And I think he can lead a struggling team out of the basement, because we've seen it with him doing it at Jackson State, him doing it at Colorado when those teams were really bad. And if you have to start building a team around Shedeur Sanders first, instead of building a team first, then getting your quarterback, which I think is the right method, but not all teams think that's the case. I think Shedeur Sanders can handle it. We saw it in Colorado over these past couple seasons. Did you see his offensive line the last couple years? And he still found ways to make plays and for a little bit be in the Heisman contention. So I think he'll be a good quarterback, but there are some questions with, can he be that leader, that culture? I mean, then you talk about his pace in the pocket. There are some concerns that we see with his game that might
Zip on
push
the ball.
people down the board. His zip on the ball as well. And I think he holds onto the ball a little bit too long too. And that might be a tough thing to get away from, especially when you are learning a new system. And that system is a lot more in depth, even with the NFL type coaches they had in Colorado. That's going to be different when you get to the pros.
It certainly is. I'll say this. We're a little criticism based, I guess, at this point, just kind of critiquing these guys' game.
Yeah.
Pretty sure they could all beat me in anything they wanted. So keep that in
that's
mind.
just the given, man. That's just the given. And I feel like, when you just see when you see two fools talking sports on the computer, I'm pretty sure that's just the given. But let's just say that the criticism is not going to stop. We're here to talk ball, folks.
We're here to talk ball. Yeah, we're talking ball. But Shedeur, if you see this, I apologize for being rude, which I don't think I was. But you're more than welcome to come on. You can definitely.
You can come on. Man. You can come on the show, but I don't apologize. I'll never say
well,
sorry.
that's the yin and the yang. Here. That is exactly
spoken like a true Patriots fan. There you go.
Nonetheless,
if someone trades up to Philadelphia at 32, who would you rather be? Say both the Browns and the Giants pass on a quarterback, and they take the Abdul Carters and the Travis Hunters, if you will. Who would you rather trade up at 32 and say that scenario happens and Shedeur is sitting there? Would you rather him be a Cleveland Brown or would you rather him be a New York Giant?
From what perspective is the question?
Just where we sit right now, like as of right now, from what you know.
I think from what I know, I would want him. Oh, that's tough. Do I want him in Cleveland to stay away from the dynamic duo of Winston and Russell Wilson? Or do I want to see the Winston and Wilson experiment mesh with a Shedeur? I think I'm going to lean. He goes Cleveland. Obviously, Myles Garrett returning there. I think he could obviously make some noise there. But I don't know what to expect from Winston and Wilson right now. And I think that if he's not in that equation, you might just get a better product at the end of the day. But also, I could be so far off base. Like, he could be the missing ingredient to the most media clips generated by a quarterback room of all time. Like, I don't know. That is very possible.
This one just popped in my head now, and we've just been kind of saying it, though. But imagine the Browns drafting Travis Hunter at 2 and Shedeur Sanders at 32.
Yeah, it'd be the Cleveland Buffaloes, man. That's it's not impossible, though. It's really not.
That franchise would turn around real quick, at least in the eyes of the media. You'd hear them a lot more on First Take.
Yeah, well, that's all you'd hear. Them, and then the Chiefs, really, and the Cowboys. That'd be your trio for the year.
That's it.
Damn. I don't. Please don't do that, Cleveland. Please.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. If you watch this far and you still have not texted Travis Hunter asking him to get on here, what are you doing? I mean, at least hit subscribe if you're not going to go that far. We appreciate every single one of you.
And say sorry for Nick at least one time today, because he really needs that apologetic form in his life.
Yes. Yeah, I suppose. Shedeur, yes, again, I know I do apologize. Do I though? But yes. So hit subscribe. Be sure to look out for more draft content. We have got a ton of that coming down the pipe. 32 Blueprint. Turn on the bell because you are going to be the most informed draft aficionado come the frozen tundra times. In just under a month, we're running low on time, so be sure to do that. Christian, thank you so much for your helpful insights and making me look like the biggest Shedeur Sanders hater of all time. Very much big help. I can't wait to talk to you next time we run it.
All right, man.